Humanism, Practice with a Heart, by Lauren Drucker, Wanda Jensen, and Catherine Wyatt. Carl Rogers is considered one of the founding fathers of psychotherapy research. Carl Rogers' creation of client-centered therapy has urged social workers to focus on the worth and dignity of the client, which in turn ensures that the client's feelings are validated. This then provides the opportunity for personal growth and development for the client. Humanism, or client-centered therapy, is humanistic in that it encourages a focus on the relationship and trust between the client and worker rather than specific techniques. So, when working with clients, the client-centered theory guides us to acknowledge that clients have free will, they are basically good, and want to make the world better. With this, we can maintain optimism about our clients and their capacity to be resilient. The key concepts to note with client-centered theory are self-actualization, congruence and incongruence, unconditional positive regard, and empathy. Congruence for the social worker involves maintaining self-confidence and awareness even while being challenged by a client. Being grounded in our practice and confident in our modalities will help us to accept criticism and judgment from others without becoming upset and having a negative response that can then hinder the trusting relationship. This is also the same for clients, so it's important to model this congruence when working with them. Incongruence is the result of negative self-image and anxiety. This state is typically when clients will be coming to us and where we may experience some countertransference if we are not in congruence with ourselves. Unconditional positive regard involves having open communication with clients and not putting forth an attitude or expectation that there are conditions to our support. If the client feels that they need to impress the worker, they will not be showing their true selves and we will not be able to form an effective and trusting relationship. Empathy plays a huge role in client-centered work because it values the importance of keeping the conversation client-focused. Being empathetic allows the client to share their story or experiences and feel like the worker is listening, understands, and values their experience. Lastly, Rogers has identified that self-actualization is a key step in the process of moving toward personal development and fulfillment. As social workers, we can assist clients in the change process and help them achieve self-actualization. Here we have the 3 guiding principles to client-centered theory. Principle 1. Personal and social problems occur when people are devalued. This reflects again on the idea and importance of the dignity and worth of the person. If individuals are feeling devalued and lack any sort of power or control over their life, they tend to struggle with social and interpersonal relationships. As social workers, we can help all clients to explore their strengths, identify goals, and work towards taking back that sense of control and stability. Principle 2. Change happens in the context of an authentic, helping relationship. We previously identified that unconditional positive regard and a trusting relationship are what foster change in clients, which is what is being emphasized in this principle. We also need to keep in mind that the change process is not hierarchical and that clients are the expert on their life and the change process. Principle 3. People are capable of self-actualization when conditions allow positive growth and change. Rogers tells us that people are naturally inclined toward growth and change. With that, self-actualization is the end goal for the change process. So fostering an environment that allows for that growth and change will help guide clients to self-actualization. If we remain focused on the open and non-invasive environment instead of problem-solving, clients will be able to navigate their own change process. In reviewing the key concepts and theoretical principles, we can see that each of these principles contains the key concepts and guides us in how to effectively practice client-centered work. Like most theories, there are 6 applications of this theory to practice. They include engagement, assessment, goal setting, intervention, termination, and evaluation. At the center of all these steps is the client. Through engagement, the focus is on learning about the client and building a trusting relationship that fosters respect and open communication. During the assessment phase, workers are continuing to focus on the client through discovering strengths, problems, and goals. Because the client is the expert on their situation, goal setting is a process that is led by the client, so that they can identify their goals that lead to self-actualization. We as the workers can engage in conversation and help clients to think critically about areas of their life that they would like to focus on and improve. An interesting point from the book is that all of these processes are working together, particularly the intervention phase. Humanism focuses on the client and helping the client's self-esteem. Through building relationships, identifying strengths, and setting goals, clients will naturally start to feel better and think better of themselves. The intervention phase happens across all phases, but is one of the key aspects towards self-actualization. Termination is a process that starts during the very first session. In particular with client-centered theory, we will be forming strong bonds with clients, but it is important to keep in mind for ourselves and for the clients that there will be an end to the client-worker relationship. Acknowledging the hard work and positive steps is key to ending this relationship, as well as being sure to say goodbye. Last, evaluation is again client-focused and led by the client. It is a conversation to understand where the client felt they made progress and to discuss any areas they felt we could have focused on more or areas the worker could improve on. As you can see, client-centered theory has several strengths identified here. Most notably, it aligns directly with the NASW Code of Ethics and core values. It is also very versatile when considering micro, meso, and macro settings, as well as working across all cultures. It is multidisciplinary in that it can be used in conjunction with other intervention methods and encourages positive, trusting relationships with clients. While the strengths are numerous, there are also some limitations. Unfortunately, there has not been much funding to research client-centered theory. It is simple and doesn't give workers many guidelines to practice, and there can be limits to how much time workers can spend with clients. Like many theories, this approach can be used across all backgrounds. However, it is important to keep in mind our own practice limits and cultural competence. In reflecting on our own competencies, it is important to have our own self-awareness, make note of, and attempt to understand the different aspects of the client's culture and provide culturally competent interventions. A couple examples are identified here of how the client-centered approach can be used with diverse groups and individuals. The first case identifies clients with HIV and AIDS and how we can work with the clients using the client-centered approach and narrative theory together. In working with these modalities, we focus on the client story, which helps build the rapport and trusting relationship that goes along with the humanistic theory. Because of the way that the client-centered theory maintains that the client is the expert and focuses on the strengths of the client will be able to gain some of the power back that they may feel they have lost, as well as recognizing their amazing strengths, resiliency, and identifying a reason to keep living. In the second example, we would be working with an adolescent client who is experiencing PTSD. In using client-centered therapy and CBT modalities, the client can experience a positive relationship building as well as explore strengths and focus on altering negative thoughts. CBT can be an intense experience, particularly exposure therapy, so having the trusting relationship and acknowledging how well the client is doing can impact their positive change effort and improve depression symptoms. This concludes our presentation on client-centered theory. Our references are on the following slide.